Welcome to the Fit Affiliate podcast, where we talk about behavior and behavior-based conversations as they relate to CrossFit affiliate owners and coaches. My name's Lisa Hetherington, and I'm your co-host. Sitting alongside me are Tony and Chuck, the founders of Fit Affiliate. And welcome back to another episode of the Fit Affiliate podcast. Joined today, got the full band back together this week. Chuck and Tony, how are you?
I'm good. I'll be honest. This is the first time I've ever had like some amount of anxiety at all with any of these because I'm like, is the question she's gonna ask gonna be something that neither Tony and I want to talk about? But like, it is what it is. Anyway, I'm already ahead with the spoiler.
Yeah. Pending whatever she's about to say, I'm going to pose that we're not our actual people today. It's Tom Selleck and I'm the hipster. So if we say anything incorrect, you can go after those personalities, not who we actually are.
We should have like pseudonyms for like our fucking alter egos of when we make bad decisions or send hasty emails or when my wife is looking at the things I purchase from Instagram ads. Be like, that wasn't me. That was Buck Chennington.
I can see that this is a bad idea already. So, to catch everybody up, every week I hit Chuck and Tony with the topic of the day a few minutes before we go on. They don't have any preparation and
she blitzes us. That's what it is. It's a blitz.
And some people don't believe the fact that I can hit you with that, and you guys can find so much to talk about in the episode we have without any preparation. I went, oh, you haven't met Chuck and Tony. So I thought today.
Ooh, there's also a really good lesson in that I'll throw into the episode. But yeah, keep going.
So today I thought, well, let's just do it, and to prove that this is actually how we roll, what we do, we're finely tuned machine that we are with hours of pre-meetings and stuff. So today, a newsletter email went out from Affiliate this week talking about, are you solving problems or are you creating them? And I thought that's something we haven't really talked about a lot in detail on the podcast, about the knack us affiliate owners have.
Interesting. You know what? I hadn't thought about that until I was like today years old when you said that. We owe everybody an apology. That should be the only thing we talk about on the podcast based on real life interactions with real life coaches and affiliate owners.
Well, I think we do talk about it in a roundabout way, but we've never had a whole episode dedicated to basically, is it
what
a problem
does that even
or are
mean?
you making it one? Yeah, and we tend to like creating things as affiliate owners. So, yeah, let's talk on that subject about, how we do it, why we do it, and how we can make it better.
So I think there's two things that would be good to like earmark, and I'm going to let you make sure that we talk about both of them because I see them as separate, and this might actually be an interesting like piece for just all of us to chat through. Is this a problem or are you making it one? And then also, does this solve a problem or does it create one?
Yep.
The first is the lens to view whether or not like this is a thing worth solving. The second is the lens to view like, is this actually a solution that puts us in a better position? So I wanted to propose that as a merry triumvirate,
way to sneak that word in.
That's why I made that face. I was waiting for either your face or your noise.
It's an inside joke you guys wouldn't understand, but it's all right.
We'll do that on episode 100. You can go ahead and make a note on that. We'll be like, what is the triumvirate? And we'll just tell that whole story.
We should probably just bring in a special guest to explain that one.
We will. Oh, that would be a fucking dope guest episode. We're going to do that. We'll set that up for episode 100.
Okay.
Cool.
Send me an email.
Yeah, and now we've reverse Uno'd the whole thing because only moments ago Lisa was like, "Ooh, I got him right where I want him." She's like, "Well, now I want to know about other stuff."
Yeah, tell me.
I will never tell.
But to get us back on track, most not affiliate owners, not coaches, just most people spend most of their life mentally masturbating or building an enormous amount of decision fatigue or just living in a place of a ton of fear and anxiety and like negative mental and emotional positional situations for themselves because they're considering many things to be problems that are not actually even problems. And so one of the most often asked questions that is very similar to why, but a different kind of utilization of a tool is this a problem? Are you making it one? And I hope that makes sense as just a surface level, like in the very literal sense, like, is it a problem or are you making it a problem?
And what is it distracting you from actually looking at?
Don't get down that rabbit hole yet. That takes us down falling around the corner.
That's my PhD in that rabbit hole. That's that's where I live.
There's a couple of things about that one too, right? I mean, frankly, that statement rather, is also really what built the whole company, right? Like it wasn't really about, as everybody knows who's a listener, I hope, is that we didn't start this thing to teach you guys, tell you guys, or inundate you with things to do. Instead, we really wanted you guys to stop doing the things that weren't actually helping you. And so that was the central framework question, and really still is with pretty much every single coaching call is this actually a problem or are you making it one? Of course, you can imagine the immediate response is always, yes, it's a problem.
It's a huge problem. The world has never known a problem such as this.
But as you dig through those, as we do as coaches with each client, and you dig, you realize that all of those demons, all those monsters in the corner are, as we often say, just a pile of clothes until you turn the lights on, right? So they're not actually really problems. But I think everybody has heard at some point, at least probably even used it, like the difference between busy and productive. And that's really what that question is about, right? Because there's no shortage of things to keep you busy. And that more often than not is the reason why we come up with all these demons, these dragons to fight. But that doesn't mean that you're being productive. And that's where the whole thing started
from. And then maybe to give like layers of context, Lisa, how about when you were early in your coaching relationship? What is something that you brought to the table as a problem that we refocused your time, energy, and effort?
Well, there were so many to choose from. I don't know if you've got
the
one
easy low hanging fruit.
Is
so like where I figured that, well, even like lower level than that, because like class schedule can become a real thing that like we actually need to do some digging, right? Like we really need to look for some data and some numbers. A good example that happened in your coaching calls, it also happens in most coaching calls early in the relationship, is discussions about programming in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And not from like an executional standpoint of like, hey, how do we get the staff to do X, Y, Z, but just, hey, I've got clients that are unhappy about doing rope climbs and V-ups.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't fucking like doing rope climbs and V-ups. And I do a lot of this and I've built a whole life around it. Like, what are you even talking about? Shut up. Let's get back to business. There's big stuff that really matters. Now there's more layers to it and there's more nuance to it. And so it's not to be disrespectful or like diminish it. But like, how much would change in your gym if you guys only did rope climbs and V-ups? How much would change if you never did them again?
It'd be minuscule, really.
Right, and so we can be like, well, I don't know how to answer that. And so what else exists early in the relationship is like the framework of the 4 horsemen, in really getting people to think about their why, really getting them to think about, values and vision and mission, what they're actually fucking after, because that ends up being the thing that gets them to answer the question themselves, right? Like if we look at what are the things that are the most important to you, is this thing that you're bringing to the table consequential to any of that at all? If no, then like we don't even need to go and look at numbers and pull reports and like investigate further. Like if this thing doesn't matter relative to the things that matter most to you and your goals for the business and yourself, then like, dude, bail. It is entirely wasted time, energy, and effort.
And I think that's a really important marker to make, because to evaluate everything about what's really important to you, where you're trying to get to, the greater mission and your why, versus members just come to me and say that they're unhappy because, as we've talked about in previous episodes, you can go down that rabbit hole of jumping every time someone says jump, regardless, and not having anything to weigh it and balance against, or having fine gentlemen like yourself to talk to and say, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. Someone wanted it, because you think that I've got to keep people happy, and you guys are going, why? Is that going to help you get to here's where you want to be? Is that going to help you get there? And it's like, oh, no, maybe not. Moving on.
Well, yeah. So two things. One, I want the record to show that we did not dismiss Lisa's topic. We just and here we are. We have now ran with it. So hopefully you guys did not breeze past that little topic, and we'll come back to why we consider that to be our most successful attribute. However, I also think that if you're listening to this, it's pretty hard to grasp the subject. In fact, it probably comes off a little insensitive or callous, right? Like it's almost like we're dismissive of the nature of your problem, as if like whatever you're going through isn't actually a problem. And that's not the case. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's problems that exist inside your affiliate that for sure do need to be resolved. We're not saying that every problem that you present us is not actually a problem. You're just making it one. But the vast majority, unfortunately, are exactly that. And the reason in which that they come up, and I think one of the reasons we've never talked about this on this podcast is because it's very case dependent. There's lots of layers, there's lots of complexity, and it's truly very individual to the conversation. So it's very hard to understand this, I think, through the lens of.
That's a really good caveat.
Mm.
I'm glad you brought that up. And so what I thought about as you were saying that, because it kind of like refocused it, is it's not to be entirely dismissive of the problem. It's to stop us from fighting symptomology and get back to the root of where the thing really went wrong, or what the actual problem is that has created the symptom that is now presented to us.
For sure.
And, in fairness, having sat on the other side of the table, when you bring the problem to the table, you guys will listen to it. You've got a chance to at least vent it. Sometimes when you put things out in the air, that's when it gets, that actually, as I'm saying, that is pretty dumb. But
Can you ask the question again slower and louder to yourself?
I just see the expressions on the faces, but you do hold the space to verbalize it and get out there. And then, there'll be a discussion about it. It's not immediately a shut down saying, yeah, okay, move on.
That's
there
how
is
it all works. Yeah, you guys pack your bag and you show up at the call ready and willing to just dump the whole thing on us. And frankly, we actually enjoy listening to all of them, right? But it's not that again that we're dismissive to the notion of it. It's just that it's the very nature of anxiety in general, right? If you've ever had to work through, panic or angst, the simple act of saying it out loud to yourself in the mirror, in most cases, immediately removes the weight and the immediacy of the problem itself. Because as you say it and you get it out of your brain and out of your mouth and into reality, you're like, what? Right? But until you keep it in that crock pot of your brain of yours, the pressure just continues to build and your brain continues to get to be more like pudding and mush. And then eventually you're just like, the sky is falling, right? And then as soon as you find somebody and you've got the balls to say it finally, you're like, Lisa, the sky's falling. And you're going to be like, did you eat mushrooms again before you came to this call? and so we enjoy it because just like you said, in so many cases, as you guys bring the problem to the conversation or to your coaching call, these simple act of having to say it, you're just like, forget it, right? And then you just kind of throw the whole thing out. And so that's one of the fun parts about it, is that it does let us be way more productive, way faster. Because 90% of the things you're stewing on, they're not real.
And it does give you skills to be able to weigh that up yourself as you go through to say, preparing for my call, what are my things I'm working on each week? And you're like, oh, actually, that's not going to be a problem. And you start to, have that skill to recognize what's really a problem and not versus not, and think, well, I don't need to talk about this in my meeting. I've got this actual thing to talk about.
Well, and it's part of a really deliberate process, man. Kudos to you. This is a good topic. We could probably even do 2 parts on this. So, relative to piece of the process, like a lot of it is by nature that there's a written check-in at the beginning of the week or the end of the week, depending on how you view it. The act of writing is a technology that was pivotal for the evolution of the human species. Writing things down is how we turn like the mess in the crock pot into at least a mess of a handful of identifiable ingredients. But it's not until we speak it out loud that we actually understand those ideas. So writing gets it out of our brain onto the paper. So like, here's the things to look at, to pay attention to solve for, the things that matter, whatever. But then having that more consolidated list to actually have to explain and develop
Mm.
understanding with another human with.
Mm.
By the time we run through that intentional sequence, we're in a good place to problem solve.
Mm.
And that's really what we're after, is we want to solve problems. And a lot of the times the symptoms get brought to the table rather than the problem itself. It's like a client that's like, hey, my shoulder hurts every time I go overhead. I'm just not going to go overhead anymore. And you're like, maybe your shoulder hurts because your biceps tight. And so instead of like avoiding the thing, like we work on solving the problem so you can do whatever you need to. And so earlier, like the example of the rope climbs and V-ups seemed like we probably were very dismissive. Was not the case, but we figured out that that wasn't the problem itself. That just happened to be the thing that highlighted the actual issues to solve. So what were the actual issues? Inconsistency in development and execution of lesson plans. So there was an inconsistent class experience, and those two movements tend to highlight a lot of gaps in a community and a gym. There was an inconsistency in coaching delivery for building people into more growth mindsets and helping them more elegantly tackle challenging things. And there was an identified lack of accountability from the head coach to the other coaches in managing their feedback and development process. Basically, they weren't doing good enough coach feedback often enough. And so the standards slip, the delivery slips, you've got inconsistencies in lesson plans. And like, yeah, you know what? Turns out when you've got a bunch of things that aren't going the way they should, and a finely oiled affiliate, that, yeah, like rope climbs and V-ups are going to highlight fucked up shit in your class and member experience and like the coaching execution. So it wasn't dismissive. It was like, hey, like, what are we going to do? Just tell everybody to shut up and deal with it, and we're going to do rope climbs and V-ups every day? Or like, oh, people don't like it, we'll just never do it again. It's like, both of those answers suck because they don't actually solve any problems. Let's get back to business. And so hopefully that gives a little bit more context, because I do worry that sometimes when we record these, we seem like huge dicks because it's so like like the model, we just have a very different, unique model that like we don't spend all day every day talking about like case studies and this person, that person. Every now and then we'll go through something like we just did to like take a topic and consolidate it and help make sure the context makes sense. But a lot of the times, I don't know, I worry that we seem dismissive. So if you're out there listening to us, I don't know, comment, email, message, do some type of form of communication with Lisa, Tony, myself, the podcast in general. Do we often seem like dicks, or is that like my own insecurity and need for validation? I got finger banged.
I'm the bad cop. Chuck's the good cop. We hear it all the time. It's fine.
Yeah.
I do want to say something about that before we go back into this topic, and that one of the reasons why this podcast did have to exist, and one of the reasons that hopefully we don't come off as giant dicks, but we definitely come off as I suppose probably preachy at times, and I apologize for that. It's just the thing that makes our platform unique to every other platform on the planet in this regard is that we have amassed years of experience with affiliate owners by listening. Everybody else has spent their time with affiliate owners and gym owners and coaches talking at them. We've spent hours every single week with every single client since this thing has started just listening. Therefore, we have a unique lens through the affiliate landscape that most people would not have, because it's not passing through our own ignorance and our own lack of understanding or our own perceptual experience. Our lens comes from thousands at this point of hours of just listening to what every one of the clients says. And so if we do come off as preachy, we don't mean to. It's just that we are trying to attempt to package and distribute all of those hours, those thousands of hours that we have sat through, to you guys as recurring in common themes, that you do take those things and put them into practice without having to waste the time, energy, or effort that so many other affiliates owners have been through. We don't do it to come off as gurus or mentors, because frankly, we hate them. We're not them at all. We just unfortunately have to do something with all this information that we have. And if we don't, I feel like my head might explode. So this is our best attempt at that. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
And
yeah, I think that's like
the messages.
There's a couple things on that. Yeah. Well, just like some other things with that, because we talk so little about the model because we're not in the business of like selling a piece of information or having like, here's the thing to buy. Like we really engage in coaching. And so it seems super vague, but to Tony's point, I honestly believe there is no one else involved in anything similar to what it is that we do that has the data that we do.
I know there's not.
Because there's no other way to accumulate it, right? So if you look at, most of the other coaching relationships, if they do individual client calls at all, it's generally once a month.
Mm.
Well, if we do it every week, in 3 months, we've got a year worth of information.
Mm.
Like, that's not a fucking small, little statistic to wrap your head around.
And one thing about that too that's important is that when the other people who do the coaching calls, they're not coaching calls at all, they're teaching calls. And there's nothing wrong with that. But one of us shows up to listen and learn and change behavior. The other one shows up to try to teach and advance their curriculum, their cause.
Both are important.
Both are fine.
Both are necessary. Do their thing, but
one is not the same as the other.
It is a different relationship, and I've worked with a lot of teaching, I guess, business teachers over the time, which you don't realize at the time when you're doing it. But you would come on to a call and you'd start talking about whatever it is that's affecting you. But it's like they were listening to go, okay, yeah, cool. Well, today this is what we're working on anyway, and here's the next module. Here's the next thing. Yeah, listening to respond, and you're like, you felt like you got something, and okay, I've got this to work on. So you forgot about that thing, but you still never actually got to the root cause of that thing. So it was recurring, and it was to just give you the next thing.
Which is why you guys always bring problems to these calls that are not actually problems at all. So it's all come full circle back to this conversation, which the very nature of this is you guys exploring the fortunate or unfortunate circumstance that you have gotten yourself into, which is I own an affiliate and I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. Right. And that is the very nature of it. And there's two things that come out of that. One, general and overwhelming confusion and chaos. No doubt about it. Right? You spend all day, every day responding to everybody equally and at least to your best ability. And then the other side of that, you ultimately still feel like a fraud. I'm well aware of it. I know what it's like to sit in that seat where you're just like, I wear gym clothes all day, every day. I have no idea where my next customer is coming from. My budgets are upside down, or maybe I'm profitable, but you have no real idea or conceptual idea how to control the whole thing. So what do? Stuff, right? And you guys all task or bait all day long, trying to create things and do things that distract you from things that are actually important, because you're all well aware of, and we believe every affiliate owner to be aware of, the solution that they need to solve their own problem, because I've never seen it otherwise. But the thing is that most of that stuff takes big, bold, scary action. And that's the thing you're trying to not do. And so all these other fires seem like a really good use of your time to afford you the ability to not have to look in the dark corner where you're just like, I don't want to pay attention to that part because maybe I don't know it. I don't understand it. It feels heavy. It feels icky. I don't know. I'm going to do these things, which are still just equally as annoying. And so you show up, you end up in your issues, and you bring them to your call, and we're just like, so if you solve this, does it solve the problem or does it just create a new one, right? And then that's the other part of the question that Chuck mentioned earlier. More often than not, you guys are addressing a problem that you have never considered what the solution actually looks like to solve that problem. And then in the solution of that problem, would it not just create a new problem, a new service, a new answer, a new solution that you probably don't have possession of? So you're like, great. The problem is that they don't have enough gymnastics, so we're going to create a whole gymnastics class. I'm like, now you've created an entire new problem. You don't even have the capacity to teach that.
Yep.
Right. So that's what brings us to this rather insensitive sort of approach to your issues. It's not that we don't believe in the issues. It's just that the general pursuit of most of your issues are ill-suited.
Yeah. It's like trying to cut the heads off a hydra. If you don't really think it through and you're so fast to action because subconsciously or consciously you want to be willingly distracted, you just fucking make it worse and worse and worse. You add more clutter, more chaos, more confusion. I mean, when people get further into the process and they're really looking at the later stages of the coaching relationship, it is entirely breaking their brain about focusing one person, one problem, one solution, one price. More often than not is the better direction to go in the continuum, rather than hey, here's our 35 memberships, our 7 different classes, our 4 different programs. You also get to name your own price. Let me know what works for you on the schedule. And then we'll try to figure it out. That sucks for everybody. It's the Cheesecake Factory menu.
Yeah.
You just like you end up being like the little Dutch boy that's trying to use his fingers to like plug the holes in the dam, and it's like you've only got these fingers, and that water's fucking coming. So I don't know.
But then, as affiliate owners, to avoid thinking about that, how do I solve this other problem? It's like, ooh, 6 road bikes. That's what I need to go and do. I need to go and buy some. I need to buy some stuff, and then you feel like I've done it.
The lens of what they know, right? Like if I gave you guys an example, it's every one of your clients. They're all well aware of the fact that they suck at gymnastics, yet they continue to pick up the barbell over and over and over again. Everybody is well aware that these type of things stop me in these type of workouts. Not only just give me a bad score, like straight up just stop me dead. And then their response is, I'm just going to do more workouts. Right? It's just busy work in the attempt to solve the thing that they don't want to pay attention to, which is the gymnastics. And that's why we've always said this whole thing is essentially the gymnastics of your fitness, of your business, because it's getting you to pay attention to the things that you don't want to pay attention to and get you to appreciate the elegance and simplicity that is fixing your gymnastics. It's just hold the position and do it regularly until it becomes a position of coordination, and then apply force through said position of coordination and repeat. But if those things don't happen first, what are you going to do? You're going to rep out, bro out, blow out, die. I don't know. Probably never even get on top of the rings. You're just busy. And that's, you've all seen it every single day with every single one of your clients who attempts to do all the things.
Yep.
Accept it for what it is. You do the same thing on the business side.
And it is very true. Like, you see clients who are like, I need more. I need this. No, you actually just need to do this better. And I know that, from many of my coaching calls, it's like, why are you off chasing squirrels? Like, what's happening for you?
Well,
what do you need to feel useful right now?
And so I feel like, well, anyway, finish that now. You're prompting good thoughts in my head. Sorry.
And it's it's that feeling of, I can't control these other things, so I'm going to go and do other things that make me feel like I'm a good affiliate owner. So I'll go and buy those road bikes, but I don't know how to deal with this other thing. So, and it's hard and scary, so I'll push it off to the side.
It's the showing up to class on a strict pull-up and strict push-up day, realizing, oh no, going to get a good workout. And so then they do 3 more workouts afterwards. They're like, no, that counts. I'm like, just overlook the entire value of being exposed to your weakness.
Right. You could have done the one thing correctly that crushed all of the best athletes in the gym, or, you can just keep doing the same thing you've done for the last 5 years and looking the same way you have for the last 5 years and getting stuck in the same open workouts that you have for the last 5 years. But, you do you.
Yeah.
And if you guys are good, since we're close to like a half an hour on that, I would like to shift into like a different framework for it. So like, let's assume that we get to, hey, like this actually is a problem, and it's a problem worth solving. And you know what? We could probably do some of these solutions and not actually create more problems. It might still not be worth your time, energy, and effort. There are so many affiliate owners that spend, it's a sad, like painful thing to watch and be like, it's only because we experienced all of it. Like, lest anybody forget, we are also dudes that like spending a long time owning gyms and spent a long time traveling in gyms. And it makes you sad. And so where I'm going with all of it is like, even if it's a problem that is worth solving, that can be solved, that doesn't create another problem, there's a lot of times like you're fucking stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Dude, like, hey, why don't we instead focus on what is one problem that if we solved it would make all of the other problems either irrelevant or far more manageable? And that's a way better use of your time. And you're like, we could solve this, and we could solve this, and we could solve this, and we could solve this. Be like, or if you just fix this one thing, do all of these just instantly not even fucking matter or become disproportionately easy to solve for? We should spend more time, energy, and effort over there instead of chasing all of these different squirrels. Like, why don't we just shoot a buffalo?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think about that. Well, all the squirrels are right here,
It's going after that low hanging fruit, but through coaching, you get to identify. You actually get to see to continue your analogy, what your buffaloes are. So here are the things that I should be working on every day. Here are my big things.
And I think that there's power in that too. Not obviously just in our model because the way that it is, but it's the very nature of truly getting exposed for the first time to coaching versus being taught. It's one of the things that we very proudly preach about, and we definitely preach about this one, is the difference between coaching and teaching and training. And maybe not everybody doesn't agree with us, but when you've been on the receiving end and you have been, coached per se versus trained, it's a very notable difference. And that big notable difference is that there is no complexity of new information. There is no complexity of processing, the unknown. The complexity is like, what was I even thinking? Right. And so it's just behavioral. And when you've been on the receiving end of that, whatever that looks like, nutrition, training, business, however that happens, if you've ever truly been coached or coached somebody, that behavioral change is powerful. It's huge. And one of those big things is just getting you guys to focus on the things that you are distracted from. That's it. It's not teaching you new things. You can eat a buffalo. You know how to kill a buffalo. Sure, the buffalo might be further away than all of these squirrels are, but you'd have to kill 70,000 of these squirrels to even remotely consider the amount of food that's going to come from that buffalo. But you're just like, yeah, but there's all these squirrels right here. I'm like, they're going to be there. And if you need them later, you can come back and fight them, right? Like you don't have to deal with them right now.
We should put that in a shirt. You don't have to fight squirrels.
Right. Yeah. That might be the title of the episode.
Find your buffalo.
I want a royalty for that. It gets said to me more often than anybody.
Actually, yeah, we definitely can't do find your buffalo because Froning will probably come and fist fight us in the middle of the night. Be like, I'm doing the buffalo thing.
Yeah,
that meat is mine. Here we are back to meat again.
Right, we're back where we started.
Always.
Moving on.
Conversation.
Yeah. So why?
Burnt
It's going downhill. So for affiliate owners, and we're looking at, and I know we've done episodes on metrics and what's important. How does someone bring themselves back to be able to assess what's important? If you're sitting there,
hey, coach.
Yeah,
Tony, you talk first.
The essence of what is coaching is essentially the essence of a thing that we've talked about a few times, which is just backward integrated design. What a good coach does is start with the end, right? And they backfill everything from there. We figure out where you want to get to, or they figure out where you want to get to, what that looks like, all the things, the variables are going to have to happen, and then they back engineer from that point, right? And so often referred to as backward integrated design. That tells you, is this activity going to be moving me closer to my goal, further from my goal, or no difference? And here's the clarity. If it's not moving you closer to your goal, or it's not moving you, or if it's moving you backwards from your goal or not moving you anywhere towards your goal, it's just not worth doing. If there's other things on the list that are worth doing, that do move you forward. So if it's not moving you forward, it's not worth your attention at the moment. But somebody has to tell you what forward looks like. And that's, I think, the big missing piece for a lot of people, is that they don't really know what forward looks like. They have a utopian, maybe even a dystopian view of what the future looks like of success. But I can tell you one thing, out of hundreds of consults with new affiliate owners, hundreds, none of them have any idea how to dream. Right? Our favorite question is always the magic wand question, which is like, if this is the best thing that ever happened, and when we ask them what they would wish for, instead of telling me what wish looks like, they tell me what they don't want. Right. And so the very nature of that lets us know that, okay, we're going to have to work on a lot of distractions, because you're so fixated on what you don't want, you can't even pay attention to what you do want. And so reasonably, how would you know if this is solving a problem or creating a new one? You wouldn't, because you don't know where you're trying to get to.
And it is a I know when I came through the initial intake processes, the stuff that you had us fill out, but around the 4 horsemen, it was like, what is this thing? It's like, I just want to run a good affiliate where everybody's happy. It's like, well, what's your just cause? What's your mission? It's like, to keep the doors open. And you don't have that. You think that is
Ron
the
Burgundy?
end point. Yeah. you just think that.
Put a question mark on the teleprompter again.
Yeah. I need to just keep running a good affiliate. Well, but what is
right? And then, but even so assume that is assume that box is checked. Okay, and then, or in service of what, or to fulfill what larger purpose.
And then
And honestly, most people don't like and then, because they're so busy trying to solve symptoms rather than address problems, that the idea of like having a magic wand and being 3 years in the future when all of the dreams and goals are realized, like, it's impossible for them to even construct in their brain until somebody actually reworks and rewires their ability to go through having a vision or a dream, making it a goal with a plan, and building actionable steps. And like the big red flag is like, well, might be nice, would be nice, could be nice, should be nice, I wouldn't want, or if that. Like, dude, it's a magic wand. Are you familiar with how magic works? And at this point on most of the consults, there is that moment. Usually Tony phrases the magic wand question, and then I come in like immediately thereafter with the caveat of like, hey, just real quick, you do know what magic is, right? Like, you do know how a magic wand works, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I know a lot about magic wands. I'm a fucking wizard. And they're like, whatever. Actually, nobody's ever said that. But usually even giving that like very specific, deliberate prompt, the very next thing is something like, well, I'm not trying to get rich, or, well, really all I want is to, do this, or it would be
Help
nice
people.
if I could.
Like to
it
work
would
less.
be nice if I could. You're confusing the fucking magic of the universe, bro. Ifs and shoulds and woulds and coulds aren't how we like have the ability to even guide somebody towards like, dude, is the thing that we started this whole episode talking about, like, is it even relevant to your big picture?
Because
if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend 5 minutes on it, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
And clarifiers in this is that the answer would be, I own my gym. I don't coach classes anymore. I make $1 million a year. Whatever that list goes on, because at that point we have endpoints. And so we can then track all of your behaviors to make sure that they align with your intentions, or they are just distractions. And that is the key difference in why this whole question is so important, is because the vast majority of what most of us are really dealing with on a day-to-day basis is a lack of congruence between our intentions and our actions do not align with our intended end state. Right? So what we intend to create, most people don't even know, as we just said, because they can't even come up with a magic wand. So they have no real intentions. The only intention is avoidance of discomfort. And that looks like a whole lot of different things, because there's a lot of things that potentially are going to make me a little bit uncomfortable. So I'd like to solve all those. But the thing is that a little bit of discomfort doesn't really matter if we're in pursuit of the right intention. And so all we do as coaches is just make sure that, Lisa, you told us that you wanted X, Y, and Z. How does solving this even remotely move us closer to X, Y, or Z? You'd be like, it doesn't. Right. Okay, let's not pay attention to this right now. Let's move on to something that does move us closer, because the further you get, the less you pay attention to the dumb things.
And it's maybe because, and I know this is another favorite term, is that, we're bonded to our trauma and the suffering of, being an affiliate owner is hard, and this is hard, and I'm working hard to
Dude,
think that
it's
you
not.
can. Yeah, but we create that identity, or maybe it was just me, but we create that identity of, why would I assume that, when you guys said to me, what would the affiliate look like in 3 to 5 years or 10 years? And it's like, well, we're still here and I'm, doing the things, but you don't think that it's possible that I can't make $1 million a year in this affiliate. I can't make, because as affiliate owners, we believe it's bad to make money for some inherent reason, but it's, we get stuck in that loop. And by the time then we reach out for help, we've had so much trauma and so much go wrong that we don't want to dream, or we can't dream, because it's like, well, I got to get out of this black hole first.
Well, and that's a big piece of some of the things that you're speaking to, is a big piece of why we are so attached to and in defense of and in love with and loyal to the affiliate model, because the affiliate exists in a completely neutral state. Like, it will never be the cause or the solution to any of your problems. Like, it's always going to be you. And that's really important for people to like be forced to just fucking sit with. It's like, nope, selling fitness isn't inherently like a hard thing. It's that you haven't developed that skill. It's not that people don't want to work hard, that you haven't figured out how to curate a culture in which people want to work hard.
Mm.
I apologize if this part comes off dismissive too, because here's the thing: humans are only motivated by one thing, and that's the avoidance of discomfort, right? And so, this very notion of this trauma bond and this trauma response that we have in these things, it's a very powerful narrative that we put over ourselves, but pretty commonly, regularly, right? And no doubt about it, like you have experienced some trauma, some stress, some duress, things that happen since
A
owning
lot.
your career, right? And like some of that trauma is essentially anything that happens to you that is outside your ability to cope with. And no doubt about it, there's been some traumatic realities that have happened there. But the thing is that what you're dealing with more often than not is overwhelm. And overwhelm is purely just a byproduct of lack of traction, right? It's a lack of intention. Because as soon as you start moving towards your intentions and you start gaining momentum, the overwhelm dissipates. It almost immediately goes away because now you're in pursuit of something. And so the lack of a goal, the lack of an intention, the lack of momentum just leads you to this sense of overwhelm. And really what you are dealing with is an addiction to stimulus and stimulation, right? That's all it is, right? Whether it be caffeine or otherwise, like what we have is no shortage of things that will create a stimulus that we can respond to that lets us do something so that at the end of the day, we can feel like we were successful. Or instead of doing all those unnecessary, I shouldn't say unnecessary, but those more unnecessary tasks, if you just focused instead on a handful of bigger, more intentional tasks, you're going to feel way more momentum, way less overwhelmed, way happier as an individual, and you're going to realize just how easy it is actually owning an affiliate when you're not chasing distractions.
And that's the key thing, but it's not having that guiding North Star, which again, having coaching can help you even narrow down.
Back to the start. Come back to the start. And you're like, it's cloudy. I'm like, we can wait. They'll move. And you're like, well, while they're moving, can't we just focus on this? Does it help you? No.
Yeah.
Damn it. Sit in discomfort.
Yeah. And it's being okay with sitting in that space and understand. And I guess the beauty of the relationship with a quality coach is that they'll just sit there and wait for you to, while you're umming and ahhing and dicking, like, go, no. You know what it is.
We've changed that over. I don't know. At this point, we're like, can I cut you off if we know that it's like a point that no longer serves the purpose? But yeah, like you have to create space so that people can speak these things out loud, so that they can understand where they even sit. And then you'd be like, now that you understand where you sit, and now that you understand where you want to get to, is there a way that these paths align? Right? Like, what is the destination in the GPS? Like, well, this destination is not in California, it's in fucking Sydney. So if you're trying to go by car, none of these routes will actually work. And it's like, it's easy to laugh about that, but dude, how many people, Tony, have come to like a call at all as a consult with some idea of like where they're truly at, where they would truly like to be, and like, are these things even aligned and congruent in any way at all? And for most people, honestly, the answer is no. And like, dude, that's a very important first step. That might be the most important first step that a lot of affiliate owners don't take before they become affiliate owners. Is this a vehicle? Is this an opportunity that actually creates the thing that you want for your life, your family, your town, your city, like whatever that is? Is this really the best way to do that? Or did you just want to own an affiliate? And there's nothing wrong with that.
But I think we get stuck in that first part of all the things that need to happen to whether you've bought one or you're opening one is like, I need the gear, I need the thing, I need to get the people in, and I'll worry about the rest later. And, through my journey of owning the affiliate, I went through a process of building a mission and a vision, but they weren't then statements that were used to govern decision making. They were just things you put on the wall.
There's a deeper wound there, for sure. And this is essentially a much bigger conversation and topic, and maybe it is the part two, right? But it's the very nature of how these things end up on your plate to begin with, right? If you have no idea where you're going, you've heard us say this before, but the absence of why, what's become wise, right? And so no doubt about it, things that you're facing, fighting or otherwise, they are for sure big problems or otherwise for you. I get it. They're there for a reason and you're dealing with them. The question will always be, how do we get you to trip over the truth? And that's really the essence of all things coaching, right? Because coaching ceases to stop talking at you and start understanding you. And what that means is really, how do we get you to trip over the truth so that you take action, right? And you've heard us say before that awareness precedes action. That awareness is really just a way of saying tripping over the truth. So as a coach, it's very simple. We help you crystallize your discontent, affording you the ability to then basically trip over your own truth and then take action and solve that problem, right? Like, because the thing is, the very nature of all things solutions based or goals based is that metrics of anything don't matter. It's the stories that we associate with those metrics that matter, right? And I've used this example a few times this week about a Fran time. If a new person comes in the gym and you told them that, after completing their 8-minute Fran, that they should be able to do it in 3 minutes, they would absolutely tell you that you are batshit crazy. No doubt about it. However, having completed an 8-minute Fran and then seeing somebody who does a 3-minute Fran, and you identify with that person, I want to look like them, be like them, have the girlfriend, like whatever that is, all of a sudden you're like, I need a 3-minute Fran. That's tripping over the truth. And so more often than not, I think what ends up coming out of the affiliate misfortune is that much of your goals are what's rather than whys. And so you seek the equipment list because I don't know what my equipment list should look like. So this one seems like a good one. I don't know what my class schedule should look like. So this class schedule looks like a good one. I don't know what my rate should be. This one, because all we do is look to, these beacon affiliates or these fancier ones. And we're like, that's my goal. That's my goal. But they're not actually your goal at all. The question is, how did you come up with the narrative of that story? And why does that matter to you? And how do we change it? So we can figure out what yours is, because that's how you'll go after it. Because as soon as you understand that 3-minute Fran is what I need, you will crush it. But if I kept telling you, no, dude, Chuck, 3-minute Fran, Chuck is like, I'm dying at 8 minutes. You can fuck right off with a 3-minute Fran.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Going back to power queens and row intervals, I will never work on gymnastics.
I will never suffer that much. But yeah, it's really about, having that something that's aspirational for yourself that means something for you, rather than looking to other people.
Dude, if you don't have a goal, it's really, really hard to be productive at all.
Yeah. And it's got to be meaningful to you and have impact to you. But you're right. So often as affiliate owners, we look and go, well, I want to be like, the big box gyms or the big, I want to run a gym like Rich does at Mayhem. Like, yeah, we could do that. It's like, you're on a hill at Narangba, dude. Like, there's no correlation
I
to
want to do that.
Yeah. Like where do you start? Whereas bringing it back to something that was actually meaningful and personal to me had way more impact then than going, that really drove decisions.
Well, because ultimately the only thing that is finite is our time on the earth, right? Like almost everything else is infinite. Like the amount of money you can make, the amount of love that you can have, the number of experiences. Like if you could live forever, anything becomes infinite, but like you unfortunately fucking can't. Man. Like that's the thing, right? Like why do so many of us fall so head over heels in love with fitness, teaching and training fitness, and hopefully coaching fitness? Because you see what it's like to improve somebody's quality of life. That's really it, right? It's that like they found a vehicle that they could see tangible proof that like somebody's life was getting substantially better in a way that they had never seen before. Dude, like people need goals.
Yeah.
Like we should be on all of the rooftops screaming all day long, like get a fucking goal, because you need it. You need it as a human. You need something to reach for, to strive for. Like that is so hardwired into our DNA. And if you are unhappy, if you are miserable, if you are stressed, like do you have a real goal that you are in pursuit of in a way that actually makes sense to you, that this road gets me from here to there? Or at least like, do you know that if you head west long enough, you'll run into California if you're driving by car in North America?
Yeah.
It's the very nature of all that we know, right? I mean, if you think about it, is this a problem, or are you making it one? Is the central foundational question of CrossFit. Does it improve fitness? And we know if it doesn't improve fitness, what don't we do? Whatever it is, right? So unless it's improving fitness, it doesn't go on it. And through that lens, so many of us myself included, and all of you guys listening to this, I assume, have finally found real world, real life, long lasting, indefinable fitness, right? And you can imagine or remember what life was like up until that point. If I would have wrote, this is the workout, somebody who was easily distracted would have easily, instead of just doing a 400-meter run and 21 kettlebell swings and some pull-ups, it would have been like, yeah, I did a couple more laps around the building. But now that we know, we're like, did that help you? Right? They're like, no. I'm like, they're like, yeah, no, I got fitter. I'm like, well, all these scores beat you. And most of these people are actually faster than you in every other workout. So I'm not sure that you making those decisions is in your best interest in the future, right? And so they probably stop doing the extra few laps that most people are doing in a gym, right? Most people are going in a gym, chasing infinite amounts of distractions, fires or otherwise, creating problems after problem after problem. And what is it happening? They're not getting any fitter. It's until you define fitness, were you able to solidify and clarify the conversation. That's all we ever said that we attempted to do with Fit Affiliate, was that we were going to bring the principles of fitness and apply them to business, because it's what you guys know, right? You see it every single day. If you let your clients choose and write their own workouts, they won't pursue actual fitness. They will just pursue volume. And that does not infer in itself fitness by any means or stretch of the imagination. Same thing with your business. Are you pursuing fitness, or are you just pursuing volume?
Yeah, it's, once your eyes are clearly focused on your buffaloes, then you certainly don't see the squirrels. That's for sure. Find your buffalo. That's probably a good note to.
Well, just like if once you can look at things and understand them like that, like you realize, like it helps you solve the problems for yourself by just being like, oh man, there's a lot of squirrels over there. Cool, that's neat. That's interesting. Anyway, we're going this direction.
Got to do. Right? There's just a whole lot of stuff that, like, you might like doing, like bench pressing, but doesn't necessarily inherently increase any relatively real world fitness. But like, I'm going to bench press. I happen to like it. That's different. But we know that there's a much larger list of things that don't improve fitness as compared to the ones that are necessary to improve fitness. Structural weightlifting and gymnastics.
Just the combination.
Minimum effective dose.
Yeah, and the same principles apply to business and making ourselves better in business. So I think that's been a useful conversation today, gentlemen. And
if you guys listening want to explore identifying like exactly what we talked about, is this a problem? Are you making it one? Just please remember, we will always take any affiliate owner for a 1 hour call to just explore helping you identify, discuss, and solve one problem, because we care more than anybody knows until they end up on the other side of the relationship.
And I don't know when this is coming out, because that's up to Lisa as well, and she doesn't tell us this, but I can tell you that one of the loneliest times for an affiliate owner is this time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so I don't even care if you bring me a problem. If you just want to not feel alone and you don't want to feel isolated, being surrounded by people, just book the call. We will gladly spend an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours talking to you guys, because you make the difference. That's it.
Yeah. And there is a link in the show notes, and having gone through the process, you definitely don't feel alone once you've made that call, and you keep jumping on the call every week, and you definitely don't feel alone, and you feel like you aren't a complete abject failure at most things as well. So it's probably the most valuable call you'll make.
And that's the greatest mind fuck of all, right? It's actually way harder to shoot or to catch a squirrel than it is a buffalo.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. All right, gentlemen. Well, this will actually come out next week, but it is Thanksgiving for you guys tomorrow. So happy Thanksgiving, and we're all thankful for you. And I'll see you on the next one.
Quick, at the end, I'm going to start throwing, here's a new thing. At the very, very, very end of the podcast, I'm going to start throwing in like neat little like crazy off-script tidbits. Lisa's never had macaroni and cheese. That's what you guys get for being here for 54 minutes.
And thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
That fucking blows my mind. Been thinking about it the whole time.
Now I
feel like it's creating problems.
All right, on that note, see you. Stay safe.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to the Fit Affiliate podcast. If you would be interested in hopping on a free call with us to just kind of chat about what you think your problems are and what you think the gap is between where you're at and where you want to go, we can see if maybe we can help you along that journey, figure out if we're all a good fit to do some sweet things together. So click the link, set up a consult. Let's help you identify some problems that we can mutually solve.